I have to believe if we were actually like in a studio, we'd get a much bigger reaction than that.
Absolutely.
But anyway, here we are, me, the Crap Gamer, and Mooch. This is all we could scrounge up real quick, and Mooch is like real busy because he's about to move and stuff. So I appreciate you taking out some time to do this with me. I wanted to, I've been talking about a lot of this stuff on Twitter for days, and so I've been dying to do this podcast, and I wanted to do it yesterday, and things kind of fell out of place or whatever. So I just wanted to get this in.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is a much needed podcast right here. So let's get right into it, Crap. What do we want to start with?
Okay, this whole Call of Duty situation, right? As you know, and everybody else knows, Call of Duty for the past, I think, 4 or 5 years has been marketed heavily by Microsoft, almost as an Xbox exclusive that is also on the PlayStation consoles. Microsoft's platforms get the DLC first, a month early. Call of Duty is always up on the Microsoft stage each E3, and because even though I personally have like stopped really liking the Call of Duty games like for the last few years because I don't like the future kind of warfare situation,
right?
I still think it was an important thing for them to have as far as marketing because it still sells the most every year, except for like GTA years. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I mean, Call of Duty, this marriage that they have, Activision and Microsoft, it's not something. This and anybody that's been following on Twitter, which is probably a lot of people that follow us on these podcasts, knows what I've been saying over the past 48 hours. Is basically there's no way that Microsoft's not getting this deal. There was speculation, the whole thing with the Star Wars thing, but we kind of debunked the whole situation with Star Wars. Microsoft has Halo 5 coming out October 27th, and then we don't know the affirmative date yet, but somewhere between the 7th to the 17th of November is when Call of Duty is going to come out. So knowing that the 17th is when you're going to have, Star Wars come out, it didn't make sense. There's no way you can logically advertise, hey, you really need to play this game on my platform. Oh, and by the way, on the same day, I would really like you to go pick up this game on my platform. You have to stand behind one of the two fighters. So in this case, Microsoft always is with Call of Duty. Now, everybody last week was saying, well, there's no way Microsoft can't have Star Wars. You can't. And what I was telling Crap when we were offline was basically what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You can't say now Sony's going to go ahead and grab Call of Duty. How are they going to grab Call of Duty when the same week they're going to be advertising Star Wars like crazy and doing that? So, I mean, it's the other thing is that, like, I don't know, for some reason, there's a lot of hysteria in the Xbox community for no reason. We don't need to. The Xbox is doing great. Everything's fine. Crap, we'll get into the numbers later on that were released tonight. Just because you see a dip in revenue. Dip in revenue is actually because you actually lowered the price, but units are going out and software sales are up. So, I mean, the Xbox is doing fine. One person puts a scare out there, and all of a sudden it's a wildfire. You know what I mean, Crap? So, I mean, that's the long and the short of it. We can dive a little bit more into it.
Well, okay, like the whole Call of Duty situation, and so if you guys didn't know, just like last year, there was this big rumor swirling around. Oh, is Sony gonna swoop in and take marketing rights and get the DLC, and is it gonna be the lead platform? And just all these types of questions. I would assume that Microsoft pays really good money for that, and with Sony doing the Battlefront stuff, I would feel like that this is something that either Microsoft had locked up way ahead of time, right, or it was something that Sony, if it is true, and let me just be frank and say that I don't think that Sony has it, because if they did, I think they would be kind of shouting it from the rooftops. Like today, I think some people were worried because the European PlayStation YouTube was the first to release the new teaser. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if the American one did. I think they did too, and then they took theirs down.
They took it down. Yeah,
Microsoft put theirs up, and then I think just within the last hour or two, the regular PlayStation North American YouTube put theirs back up. So I think that there's some kind of situation going on there where they weren't allowed to put it up in North America. I'm not sure how it works overseas, but just like Microsoft has a deal with Witcher 3, which I personally think is like the worst deal for them ever, because first of all, they get sent PC footage from CD Projekt Red. Then people blame Microsoft for that. You know what I mean? And then Microsoft apologizes for it. I'm like, okay, somebody sends me something. I upload it. and then it turns out that that's the wrong thing, I'm not going to apologize for that. Then people should be apologizing to me.
Well,
you know what I mean? The people that sent it to me. So
the other thing too is the Witcher is head over heels a better game overall than this rushed Star Wars Battlefront game is going to be. But in all reality, reality sets in and you say, okay, Star Wars is more popular. So Microsoft didn't make the wrong move with going with The Witcher. This is also 6-8 months in advance. But I want to kind of dabble a little bit on what you just said. Now, last year there was rumors that Call of Duty was going to go to Sony. And I promised on our last podcast I wouldn't bring his name up, but I feel the need I have to bring this up. So I unsubbed him, and I recommend anybody that does follow him to unsub him. His name is T. Martin. He's got over 1 million people, so if you unsub him, you're not going to hurt him anyways, but it's just the point that matters. I used to watch him on a lot of the Call of Duty stuff because I was big into it years ago. Now, when the consoles launched in 2013, he pretty much said he'd eat his hat because of the pre-orders, and not game, but the consoles. And we all know how PS4 took an early jump in 2013 over Xbox One. He said there's no way, and he had rumors. He knew people on the inside because he goes to all the events. He gets invited because he's a YouTube character, that he would go out there, and he heard that Sony was going to be taking over as of the new generation. As we know, he and his rumor and his channel are full of shit. So what I'm saying now is basically here we are. We're fast forwarding. Somebody throws that out there again, and it's like this vicious cycle that it happens every year. I don't think Microsoft feels the need they have to jump out. I even reached out to Greeny a couple of times, just saying, "Hey, Green, could you just say yes or no, just yes or no, and hit send, and let's just put an end to it." But they really don't have to do that. They've had this constant contract for eons now, and there's just I don't see an end to that marriage. So, I mean, like I said, my point of bringing up this little story was that this has been in the talks since the new consoles came out in 2013. And all we ever see is Microsoft not only represent them in the marketing, not only getting the DLC, not only hosting the championship. You know what I mean? I mean, how many more things does Microsoft have to do and host before this is a done subject?
They just held the Call of Duty championships, right? So, and those are all Xbox. I would imagine that ties into marketing with Call of Duty and things like that. You want to be, because esports are big and Call of Duty is the biggest esport or whatever as far as shooters goes. So, I think that's something that they'll want to keep a hold of, because that gets the biggest names in the sport playing your console and things like that. And let's be fair, man. The Xbox always has the best shooter controller. You know what I mean? But what I wanted to do real quick is talk both spectrums, because I know you were like freaking out on Twitter and I had to calm you down and everything. So, I
was freaking out in Microsoft's defense. I'm freaking out in the other way. I'm like, why are we freaking? I'm freaking out because we're freaking out. I'm like, there's nothing to freak out about.
but just real quick, like like worst case scenario for me would have been, okay, you lose Call of Duty, which would to me means that it would have been a knee-jerk reaction by Sony, because they have nothing going for the holiday season. So they want to market Call of Duty and Battlefront the way they did Destiny, because they have nothing going for the end of the year. And, because Uncharted 4 was supposed to be that,
Well, that's the thing, right? So Microsoft's damned if they do, damned if they don't crap, because now Microsoft's getting dinged. Let's just say hypothetically, and this is what you're doing. If you're doing this, stop me. Hypothetically, if Microsoft was to lose Call of Duty, like Microsoft is the one coming out this fall with three exclusives we know about that are first party. I'm going to go ahead and call Tomb Raider first party because it'll never see the light of day on PlayStation 4. So like you've got 3 games we know that are coming out this fall. We don't know what's coming out from Rare yet. We don't know if we're getting a Gears collection. But I mean, I'm talking only absolutes. And Sony has nothing. So far, Sony has a Star Wars Battlefront, and we're going to get that. As you said, I think you got a pre-ordered crap. And then we're gonna let's just give them for this conversation Call of Duty. Guess what? We're getting it too. So my point is that last year and last generation, all it was Sony's got the exclusives, Microsoft or the first party exclusives. You guys don't, blah blah blah, this and that. Now Microsoft comes out guns blazing, gives everybody their first party exclusives and their cake to eat it too with the multi-plats. And yet still people are like, well, Sony won. And I'm like, I would love, and I asked a couple of wise asses today on Twitter. I said, please sell me on this. And a couple tried to do it, and literally they stopped. There's no way to prove a victory here for Sony with that.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing, right? Battlefront Sony is advertising that. There's no first DLC that they're getting or anything like that. So, you know, unlike Destiny, which they had to spend a ton of money to get that, I'm just going to go out and say, yeah, I wouldn't doubt if they spent 50 million.
50 at least.
You know, and and the interesting thing about this was at the end of last generation or during last generation, when Microsoft was doing 3 or 4 exclusives a year, but they were big blockbuster ones, and then they had like, you know, the marketing deals and time DLC and really good advertising, right? And all the Sony fans at PS3s were going, who cares about marketing deals? Who cares about time DLC? It's all about these exclusives. And then their exclusives were selling like shit.
Yep.
So they were just, and then now, right? And I mentioned that and I don't even go to sites hardly anymore. And then once in a while I'll comment because a lot of people know who I am. If I comment, they're like, oh man, are you that crap gamer dude from YouTube or whatever? You know what I mean? Like a moderate success, I guess, when people recognize the name. But they're like, well, here's the deal. Nobody gives a shit about exclusives. It's all about multiplats and, you know, and this and that. I'm like, well, didn't just last generation, just like 2 years ago, you guys are all talking about how exclusives were the only thing that matters, and now all of a sudden that doesn't matter at all? Oh no, they don't matter. Everybody, just the average gamer only plays this and this and this. And I'm like, well, damn man, that's good for knowing. You know what I mean? It's like Sony fanboys will change with the tide. Whatever their console of choices doing that generation is what they'll say is right. So exclusives mattered last gen. They don't matter this gen. The only thing that matters this gen is sales and powers, and we should all only like things that sell really well. Powers. So let's all get our Justin Bieber fucking tickets, and let's all watch Honey Boo Boo or Big Bang Theory, whatever the hell.
Whatever's up on top 2.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's all just base everything we like on how well it sells or how popular it is. You know what I mean? And now think how fucking ridiculous that sounds. And now these people realize how stupid they sound. I've just exposed them all for being morons.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, and our buddy, listen, big fan of the show, Jamie Moran from the UK, he says, remind everybody that this Battlefront deal that Sony has, nothing's been announced that they're getting any DLC first. So basically, you've got these deals that Sony's making for a couple of commercials, and let's call a spade as well. You've got November 17th is when that game's coming out. When is really the big push on television? Are they going to the Great Pumpkin with the Peanut Gang? That's when the advertising is going to be in the United States. Like, what are they going to do? Like Halloween advertising? There's not a lot of advertising they can use anyways with this. Yes, there's a nice shiny cardboard box, and maybe some parents are going to fall for the shiny cardboard box. That doesn't hold a lot. Like, you can't be a vice president in a company and you're like, we're going to be all right this year, guys. I got a stormtrooper on this box. All right. I got nothing else, but I got a stormtrooper. All right. Is the game inside that box only with us? No, it's on the competitor too. And you're fired. Like, there's no way that alone is that big of a deal. And
well,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, people are like, well, what do you think, Crappy, if Sony were to get that? I would think, well, the internet would go nuts because it would be perceived negativity on Xbox, and they love that. The internet loves that. It would be a bad day for that. But at the end of the day, if you turn on your Xbox One or your 360, I see a big old advertisement for Battlefront right there.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, and there's also already an advertisement for Black Ops 3 on both. So, you know, if you own this, you're going to see that. You know, if you're not a complete moron, you're going to realize that the game's there anyway. Is it a coup for Sony? It is in one aspect because it's been long recognized as Microsoft. But the thing with Sony fanboys is they believe that that these companies choose to go with the PlayStation 4 just out of the goodness of their heart because it's a better product and they love Sony, and that's what they think. They honestly think this, when in fact, these companies have to pay for these partnerships.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. Nobody's going to go to Sony and say, hey, we're going to make you the lead platform and let you advertise and get early DLC for free. It doesn't work like that. You got to pay for this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember last gen people would say, oh, well, they're only doing this for the PS3 because it's more powerful and they like Sony better. I'm like, you're fucking stupid. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of stupid people in the world, and it seems with each generation, it just gets stupider and stupider. Like, the people and the things that they think and their reactions is just completely mind-boggling to me. So if Sony has Call of Duty and Battlefront, I think you're going to be disappointed as a Sony fan with the first party. That might be glitzy and glamorous because you're showing what's on Xbox as well. So like even last year, the year before, they're showing like Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy and Mad Max and Batman. Well, guess where I'm playing that stuff? On Xbox.
Exactly.
Show me some stuff to play on PlayStation 4. You know what I'm saying? And they don't do that. So that's why I'm kind of excited. Either way.
This is the third Christmas we're going into. And again, I'll ask anybody, please sell me on why I should buy a PS4. I don't have, and I'm not going to be an Xbot. I'm not going to sit here and just say, oh, well, that's bullshit. Give me a legitimate reason to go get something. What is it I'm missing? And there's no answer. There's no answer. Now, I want to get to something here. To anybody who's listening, and to hopefully the few thousand that listen over the course of the week, is that what you have to stop and think is, the Xbox leader right now is Phil Spencer. Okay, we've given him a little bit of tough love in the past week or so with getting up, fighting this net. But the one thing he does give a shit about is games, and the one thing you're not going to not have is games. And the whole idea behind these arguments that have been going on back and forth with Twitter are who's going to have the better games. Well, this is the second Christmas in a row where you're going to have Christmas season, holiday season. That you're going to have 3, I'm thinking even possibly 4, one that we don't know about, exclusive come out on the Xbox One, nothing on Sony. And what he said when he was on interviews earlier in the year and late last year was, he said, we have so many. People are giving him crap because of January to June. January to June is slow for games. It's slow for car sales. It's slow for the real estate market. It doesn't pick up till the second half of the year. Everybody knows this in sales. So what you really have to understand is you have a guy here that's focused on games. He's going to absolutely blow your mind the next 12 months coming from June on. And or at least you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Tim Dog said that a couple times on our show. Give them a chance to at least get to E3. After E3, reassess the situation, what we're talking about. But there's no way you're not going to be blown out. So that's Phil Spencer's not so worried about giving. He doesn't like giving people $70 million for a couple of commercials and a map pack. You know what I mean? That's why he was like, Destiny, have it. I don't care. He wants to own IP. And if he can't own the IP, he's going to own that game for that current time. Like Dead Rising 3, not going to see the light of day. Rise, not going to see the light of day on PS4. A Tomb Raider will never see PS4 because he's invested $50, $60, $70 million. He's not going to let somebody else just take it. He said so much. You have to be careful. When you're in corporate America, you can, as we all know from Twitter now, because corporate America used to get in trouble when it was just newspapers. Now corporate America gets strung by their neck on Twitter. So, like, you have to be careful in your words, and he's very, very cautious, but he's like, listen, this is the way it is. I would never give our competition that, and I would also never put something else on another platform. So for everybody that's freaking out over anything you've heard in the past 48 hours or what you'll hear in the next 48 hours, Phil Spencer is not going to disappoint you in the games category, and that's why you have these devices, right?
He's been, they've been very kind of understated for the past few months, and I think his idea, which I think he's going to change it next year because I don't think he saw, I think he saw the vocal Xbox fans actually come out and kind of say, well, it would have been nice to get a big game. His probably thought was, we'll give them some of these smaller titles, less expensive stuff, since people don't buy a lot in the beginning of the year. And then we'll ramp it up as the year goes along, you know what I mean? And so I don't think that that's a terrible idea, like if you enjoyed, Ori and Scream Ride or State of Decay comes out this week, you know what I mean? So, and then, I think that he thought, well, that'll buy us time into, it looks like Windows 10 has leaked to come out at the end of July, and that's going to launch with Fable Legends and then maybe possibly Montana Football in early August. You know what I mean? So I think that, and then leading into September, October, November, December, which will be like Forza, Tomb Raider, Halo, and probably a couple other things. Yeah. So to me, I think that's much better. I mean, it's like, how can the Sony fanboys say, hey, you got nothing at the beginning of the year? Did you guys notice that you guys had nothing at last year, right? You had Little Big Planet. Little Big Planet and Drive Club. That's it.
Drive Club, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Drive Club, after playing it for a while, it is the worst racing game I've played since Monaco Grand Prix on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, it's bad.
And it's terrible. It's heinous. I'm going to review it. I have to get a little bit further before I, my level up a little bit, just so that I can give it a fair judgment. But it's ridiculously bad. I can see why those people lost their jobs. And, anytime you could take, I guess that game was in development for 3-4 years or something. And anytime you take that long, even with those delays, and you put out such a shit product, you deserve to not be in that line of work anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care what developer you are. You could be Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony. If you can't do your job, you don't deserve your job. That's
right.
it. You know, like when Connect Sports Rivals didn't get out on time, that kind of fucked up the Connect perception. If they would have had that, you know, maybe you have a piece of compelling evidence for Connect being bundled in. You know what I mean? But that you have high level people and managers and stuff that can't meet a deadline. And then remember, they were let go. Like a lot of people were after that, right?
Absolutely.
And I was like, and I even in a podcast with Next Gen, we both said, hey, you mess up, you don't do your job. You're a manager and you're supposed to get this out as launch. You get that shit out. You know what I mean? It was like, and that really cost Microsoft a lot, I thought, because you didn't have, I mean, you had Fighter Within, and you know what I mean? There were some games that kind of use Connect, but nothing that was like really Connect centered. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, yeah. So, you know, you deserve it. Like, I feel bad, but, you know, at the same time, if you're not doing your job, you know, then somebody else has to step in and do it for you. You know what I mean? It's like, you have a job to do.
That's the bottom line. That's capitalism. And speaking of capitalism and money, let's talk about this. The Xbox One dropped to, again, I'm going to say pounds, so pardon me if my Jamie will let me know if I'm right or wrong here. It dropped to 299 pounds, I believe, in the UK a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And as of today, I believe it was today or yesterday, Sony just dropped their price in the UK. Now, let's talk about the United States ponies that we have over here. That all said, well, you know, Microsoft dropped to 350. They don't have to. We all know that's BS, because Sony's got all these bundles out and everything else where they're 350 or 325, depending on which bundle you get, etc., on Amazon, etc. So, but my point is this: if they made a drastic drop, I think right now, as we speak, Microsoft's probably kicking ass in the UK. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And
well,
I've always said this. You know, I don't care how you slice and dice it. Nobody cares what happens in Zimbabwe. Nobody cares what happens in Guam. Nobody cares what happens in Italy. Nobody cares what happens in Turkey. It's the UK and the United States. And I will throw this in there from a couple of buddies that said, hey, please, Captain America, throw this in there. I will say Canada sales. You know, like those three are really where the Microsoft and Sony, they attack hard because they want those markets. And if Sony's dropped their price in the past week and a half, something must be going on, Crap.
Well, something was going on here too, because everybody's acting like the PlayStation 4 has been $399 and they're not throwing in extra games or offering any incentives. I got mine; it was $370, and they did a $125 trade-in if you traded in a PS3.
Right.
So, and they also give you a Vita TV and a year of PlayStation Plus. So to say that there aren't any kind of deals for PlayStation 3 or 4s is ridiculous. Right. You know what I mean? There's bundles out there right now with 3 games, and it's like Bloodborne, The Order, and The Last of Us, right? Mm-hmm. There was been bundles up on Amazon literally every week with 2-3 games, you know. So I don't think that people that, you know, that are saying, oh, well, they haven't done anything. People are just buying it. You know, I don't, you know, look, I'll be honest, man. I was talking to my brother about this. We both bought PS4s on the same day. And we both didn't realize why. Like, I walked away from buying it a couple times. He did the same. Like, we didn't know we weren't at the same place, but we bought it the same day. And then later on, like, me and him joke around about it. He's like, yeah, he goes, I was joking with them. I said, well, you know, you don't even use yours. He's like, no, I turn mine on every day. He goes, because you got to get those stability updates. You know what I mean? And I was like, I'm the same way. You know what I mean? Like, mine's, you know, because there's not really anything that's really compelling on there. I don't know why we bought them. And I got to imagine there's a lot of people that just bought those things and don't know why. You know what I mean? Oh, you know, maybe their friend did, or, you know, the hate originally. I don't even know why. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, I can't explain it.
Most people I know that are using a PlayStation 4 currently are playing either Destiny, or they're playing, or they'll say, I haven't turned it on in quite some time. That's I'm not throwing the hate out there. I'm not trying to be funny. I know a few people that bought one and they said, they were playing Destiny on it, and they said, I haven't turned it on in quite some time. And my whole point with that is there's all these great deals you just mentioned. There's a couple out right now, actually. There's a really good deal to get a PS4, and it's not even a trade-in program. It's through that Dell deal that's going on. And whatever, long story short is, even if I wanted to go get one, let's say I got one. Let's say I got it for the low price of $300, you know, whatever, a $100 gift certificate and a game and this and that. I would have brought it home. I would have sat here for 3 hours of stability updates to catch up. And then I would have actually just been like, okay, great. Now, so what do I do? And like, I don't want to play The Last of Us again. I don't want to play Destiny. I don't want to play Bloodborne. We already. I don't need to go through the hashing of what I've talked about in the show before, but just in short, I don't want to play Infamous. And anything in the world that came out at their launch, I wouldn't even use those discs as a coaster. I mean, they're just terrible games. Like, and I'm not being an ass. I'm telling you the truth. And
well, no, I'll tell you. Like, all right, I have a PS4. I turned mine on to get the free indie games with PSN Plus that I never play, and then I have Knack, Drive Club, Killzone, Infamous, and The Order. And there's not like a single one. I mean, I haven't played all of them all the way through yet, but you know, there's not a one in there that like I started playing Infamous, and there's just nothing it's kind of boring.
Yeah,
you know, and there's just nothing that's like bringing me back. And I had the same problem with the first two. I started those and never finished them.
I mean, I'm playing Ori. I'm just about done with that now. I only, since our last podcast and you asked me about it, I've only played one more time on that. So I played one more. I'm at almost 86% through or something like that. So I'm almost done with that. So I'm playing through that. And then I told you, I'm born again. Like literally the 5 of the past 6 nights I've been playing Titanfall. And but to go, how often do you go back to a game that's a year old? It's that good.
Yeah, it is. I've been playing it too.
Anybody that's listening to the show right now that has Titanfall on their hard drive or a disc, throw it in and just play tonight and just tell me the truth. Honest to God, if you haven't played since their last updates and all the map packs they've thrown in there, play it again. There's a lot more to the game than you thought. It's very rewarding. The game's amazing. I'm telling you right now.
I wish they would have released it. Yeah, released it the way it is now, like at launch, because I remember at launch it was really good, and then they kind of there was no like private lobbies or anything like that, which is kind of disappointing. You know what I mean? It was like nothing like them. You know, sadly, by the time you know, there's no single player. I still think that hurt the game a bit. You know what I mean? Like to me. Even as little a single player as Destiny had, having some kind of single player, I think meant that people were going to give it more of a chance.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if they have come out with Destiny 2 and they're like, okay, we're sorry, we screwed you guys over a little with the single player last time, but this time we're actually giving you a story and all this kind of stuff. Because I remember when they were talking about the story with the orb and this, it sounded really cool. And I was like, hey, these are the guys that did Halo. Maybe, you know, it should be a really good story. And then you play it and it's that stupid little Dinklebot saying, okay, I hacked into the system. Now guard me. You know what I mean? Like over and over again. Yeah.
Yep. That's all it is.
Yeah. And it was terrible. It was just the most awful thing. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I don't see it. But just quickly to get back on track, like, let's say worst case scenario, Sony has Battlefront and Call of Duty. You know what that means is they have shit for exclusives for the rest of the year. And I'm sure Sony fanboys will celebrate big time having a Call of Duty and Battlefront, even, you know, marketing deals, even though you should be saying, hey, Sony, why didn't you guys spend that money on exclusives? You know, why didn't you spend that money and get, you know, something that's tangible, that's not going to be on the competing platforms?
Right.
You know,
well, PlayStation they can win the award. I'll tell you right now, what's going to end up happening, award the contract, I mean, but what'll end up happening is that Xbox One will still sell more Call of Duty games. That's just a fact. They won November. I don't know if it was November or December or January. Xbox One was the leading. It was 360 or Xbox One. They were vice versa for 1 and 2 on Advanced Warfare. So I mean, you're not going to steal that thunder from the Xbox. So that's, believe it or not, that would be a dumb $50 million, $60 million to spend for Sony. Where Star Wars, they're rolling their dice with their money out there. Probably cost them $25 to $35 million. They're rolling their dice, but they've got a good chance to collect on that because it's not a game that comes out every year. It's not a game that's branded with one system. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Call of Duty is a complete and utter loss for them. It's a complete.
You know, I kind of think that I think it'll be a mistake for Microsoft to let it go though.
Oh,
because
sure.
The simple fact of the media likes to overplay anything negative. Oh my gosh, you know. Xbox done now because now they've lost Call of Duty and this and that, but it's you know, you can still play it. You know what I mean? Like that would be the part that I would look forward to the least because I have faith that Microsoft, you know, is actually going to show some really cool things. And I'm looking forward to like a lot of the exclusives and things like that. But now let's flip that and say, okay, hey, Sony fanboys, you think you're getting Call of Duty. What if Microsoft still has Call of Duty, but they, instead of just that, they're adding a few other notable third-party stuff, like say the Fallout 4 deal, maybe have them up there, maybe have Mass Effect 4 showed off on their stage, Maybe the new Resident Evil. There's rumors of that because I know the last one they got time DLC with that, so they could still have some really big third-party deals going. In addition to, we're going to see Halo 5 on the stage and Forza and possibly Gears and some things we don't even know about. Could be Rare's big return. I'm excited for that. So what's going to turn out to be what I think anyway, like Sony fanboys are all excited thinking doom and gloom for Xbox because they're the rumors of Call of Duty and this and that. I think that's going to turn around and make Sony fanboys and Sony look foolish as hell because Microsoft actually has no pressure on them. And I did a video about that today. The pressure's on Sony because they're about to go 3 holidays in a row with no killer app, whereas Microsoft, nobody's expecting anything from them. People hate them or whatever. So they can go out there, relax, show games, have a good time. And I think that the Sony fanboys, especially these ones, right? The ones that go, you just don't know because Sony has other AAA games they're going to announce for the rest of the year. Those are the people, when they say that, you can hear the pleading in their voice, the pleading in the typing. They want that to be true so bad. But here's the thing. You don't announce a big AAA title in June that's going to come out in September or October. You know what I'm saying? You don't do that. You're not going to see anything big. You might see some double A's or something that's kind of quirky. Like they did that with Little Big Planet 3. It's not a huge title. You know what I mean? It's like they announced it and then released it that year.
Little Big Planet 3, to call it space, but again, is basically Little Big Planet 2. Same engine, same everything. They splashed little 1080p paint.
It looked exactly the same on PS3 as it did PS4.
Absolutely. I mean, but what you're going to see from Microsoft is going to absolutely. The problem is that forget what you're going to see from them. Whatever it is that they do, they're going to lose by the media standards. Microsoft's going to show another 90 minutes of straight games. I think a good 60 minutes of exclusives by first party, or maybe something like you said, a Fallout or something like that they've acquired. Sony's going to come up. They're going to flash. They're not going to show you anything. And everybody, I know there's certain people that like to stenography, take care of everything I say and write it down. Well, write this down. They're going to put God of War picture up on the screen, and you're going to have Hip Hop Gamer on someone's shoulders. Someone's lighting a match. Greg Miller running down up and down with the Sony flag, and all this craziness is going to go on at E3 just because they put a picture up there. And it's 2015, like you said, it's not going to come out in 2016. It'll be 2017, 2018 till you see God of War. They don't have anybody working on that, but they'll claim a victory just because you saw them put a picture up there, and the developer came up and he was like, after the 15 minutes of applauding, and calm down, everybody. Yes, it's Sony. Powers is next. Wait, sit down, sit. Okay, and then and then the guy's finally going to be like, God of War is coming, and then he's gonna just turn and walk off the stage, and you'll see Kratos' face with a 4 on his forehead, and everyone's like, "That's it, man. That's the end of the show. We won."
Well, yeah, I mean that's that's what they did with Uncharted last year. Remember?
That's all they did, and
I totally called it.
That was actually, they were like, "Oh my god, that's what the game looks like." That's not what the game looks like. That was CGI. Get out of here.
Yeah, I was like, no way. I was like, because You can go back and listen to my pre-E3 shows, what I was going to guess. I said Sony's going to have a pretty lackluster show, and then they're going to – and I said exactly what they're going to show. I was like, they're going to show more Destiny, more this, more that. I mean, we got on Microsoft a little bit, or I guess like Showstopper and some of the guys, right? Like, oh, well, we don't want to see the same stuff. Sony literally showed the same stuff at the reveal and E3 for 2 E3s because this shit wasn't still released. You know what I mean? It was like they showed more, more Destiny, more Drive Club, Infamous DLC. I mean, whoop-de-woo. You know what I mean? It's like, holy shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, get on with something decent for a change. Not this same okay, here's your indies. They're gonna bring indie people up on stage because they have to. They're back in that corner where they're the indie good guys. Yeah. So that's basically what they have to do. They got to rack up a bunch of indies on there. Who gives a shit? Okay, there's some 8-bit things or whatever. That's great. I'm not saying that I hate all indies, but damn.
Listen, here's the thing with indies. Indies are like, I don't know. Indies are like the great crackers you have in your pantry, right? Like after you realize you have nothing else in the fridge, you look in the pantry, you're like, oh shit, I got some really delicious Triscuit crackers. Like that's the only time. Like who gives a shit? You're not gonna go home and can't wait to eat those Triscuit crackers. Like my point is, who gives a shit? Like they're just there. You know what I mean? So that's the one thing. The other thing is with Microsoft coming out and guns blazing. You've got how many now? Nobody's talking about Tomb Raider. Right? Tomb Raider is a massive game, crap. It's massive.
Yeah.
It's got the nostalgia. It's got the history. It's been everywhere from starting on the, what is it? Where did it start? On the PC, and it worked its way up. It was exclusive. So many.
Yeah, it was like it was on everything, man. It was like on the PlayStation.
Lock it down, and nobody's talking about that. Nobody gives a shit. And then Sony's like, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna do God of War 3 remake." That's 2 weeks of news.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you know what? You're exactly right. How we still see Bloodborne news. Hey, guess what? It got a patch. Did you hear that? It cuts 15 seconds off the like minute load times.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, good Lord, who cares? You know, like pay attention to some of this stuff to the people that don't realize this, right? Like, look, the big thing, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. CD Projekt Red sends Microsoft a trailer for The Witcher 3 to put on their YouTube channel. Microsoft uploads it. Kotaku bust them saying, hey, this is the PC version, right? And you want to tell me that there's not a biased media agenda out there, right? And it happens to be the guy that...
What was that Batman footage?
Yeah, exactly. Even though Sony, you know, this happens, and people are like messaging me today, how come you're not doing a video on this? Well, how about because it wasn't Microsoft's fault? You know, that's why. You know, look, in fact, the video that I want to do off that is how biased the media is, because the guy that works for Kotaku, that writer, he's the one that spends all his time sucking dick on the NeoGAF forums. You know what I mean? And anybody that spends time there, kissing ass there to those bunch of morons, you know, they don't know what the hell they shouldn't be. You know, look, I'm an entertainer. That's what I do. I can be biased because I'm not a paid journalist. I didn't go to journalism school. I practice the First Amendment and do YouTube and things like that.
That's right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So there's a huge difference there where you have someone who's a paid journalist and supposed to be unbiased, but they spend all their time looking for Microsoft wrongs. I think that's fucked up. You know what I mean? That is retarded. Why are you doing that? You know what I mean? It makes no sense. How about you guys look into those Sony hacks a little bit more, buying off journalists and the media, or using Sony cameras to for drones to bomb people and terrorism and things like that. You know what I mean? Those are things that you guys should, you know, look into those things.
No,
you know, stop worrying about stop worrying about you know, or blaming Microsoft for something that was CD Projekt Red's fault, which, like I said, that's like the worst partnership I've ever seen, because they screw them over, give them PC footage, then Microsoft apologizes. You got one dev who used to be a former Sony dev, like a pretty high ranking one, saying that he'd play the Xbox version last, it's not impressive, and DX12 sucks and all this stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, come on. And Microsoft is paying for this? You know what I mean? I mean, they can't be happy with it.
That's how quality these marketing deals are. You know, I mean, it's like it's ridiculous that you've got a game like The Witcher 3 coming out, and the dev they went gold 5 weeks ahead of time. And they didn't have time to utilize the new you know, AVI or API, excuse me, not putting in the extra effort to get the SRAM going. It's bullshit, and it pisses me off to no end that they won't put the little bit of extra effort in, and they're like, oh no, it's this and that. You know, Microsoft's going to send their engineers over. You know, Microsoft would chip in if you said, we really want to kick this thing up to 1080p. So can you just give us the know-how to do it? Because we can't. How about this? How about we stop kissing devs' asses? That's where I'm at. How about you give me a product that works, then I'll kiss your ass. I'm not even kiss your ass before I get the disc in my hand and I see it's good. Thing's awful. Like most of these games are coming out improper, broken, patches, blah, 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 and yet everybody's like, you know, come on, the dev is a delicate genius. The dev is a delicate genius.
Well, you know what's really, really funny is everybody bitched online about not wanting always online consoles, right? There's a little bit of hypocrisy in that in and of itself, but what we don't realize is the devs are kind of getting their DRM without calling it DRM, because they're giving us online games or games that require huge patches that you have to be online for. Mm-hmm. So they ended up getting their way anyway. You know what I mean? I think, you know, but like I said in the last one that we did, I think that no matter what Microsoft did, whether it was DRM, people were going to find a reason to hate it. You know, I mean, that's just the way it is.
That's what it is. That's why, like, I'm so excited for E3, and I can't wait. I'm glad that Sony's show is so late at night that I don't have to read the bullshit stories I'm going to read till the morning, because they're going to say E3 was won by Sony, and all you're going to see is indies. You're going to see whatever marketing deals they have in place, and then you're going to see a couple of pictures of maybe something coming in 2 or 3 years. They're not going to have anything to show you. I mean, The other thing is and Jamie Moran just tweeted it out again, but I had said it a couple of podcasts back. You have to do the math here, Crap. They advertised for a few years now that Uncharted 4 was going to come out this September, October, November, whatever it was this fall.
They advertised that at the launch event of PS4 in 2013.
Now there's a strong rumor that a trilogy is coming out, okay, of the classics remade 1, 2, and 3. Now, hear me out. Microsoft has already shown everybody the blueprint. So Microsoft said, hey, we're going to give you Halo the Master Chief Collection. We're going to bring you through this journey, get you hyped up, and then, bam, we're going to hit you with Halo 5. How can you tell me that this is not just going to be a quick, like literally somebody picked up the red phone at Sony, they quickly dialed the engineering officer or whoever it is, their developers, and they said, listen, we don't have an Uncharted 4. Quickly splash something together for 1, 2, and 3 in a remake, and let's sell that. We need something with Uncharted with a disc sometime this fall. What can you do? The guy was probably like, holy shit, I can't believe you're putting me under the gun like this. But what I can do is I can give you 1080p, but it's not going to be a full res markup or nothing new like Halo 2 Anniversary. So we're not going to give you anything like that, but we'll throw something together real quick.
What they're going to do is do an ODST deal, right? Like Microsoft said they had no plans on doing that initially, and then just decided to do it, and we're going to get that next month, 1080p 60 frames, right? So that's basically what. And the funny thing about that is, right, like I did a video on that letting people know, hey, that's coming out next month. If you had it before December 19th, you're going to get it for free. So like we'll get it for free, right? And that's so we'll end up with 5 full campaigns, a beta, a movie, all this stuff for $59. Okay, it was messed up for some people on the online, but you can still play the campaigns or whatever. It was fine. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so I personally am okay with that. Oh yeah. So you're basically, so we're basically getting. ODST is getting the God of War 3 treatment, but they're charging $40 for it, whereas we get it for free. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's your hashtag for the gamers or players or whatever you want to say. You know what I'm saying? So I always think that that's an interesting thing that Sony's always so fast to be like, hey, we're for the players. And then you're like, well, but you're charging $40 for this remake that's only going to be, the difference is 1080p.
But the media is not covering the angle. That's my issue with this bit we're talking about, is that nobody's picking up the feed except us, that's saying basically, wait a minute, this is not, everyone's running with the story, wow, this is great. This is what I've always wanted, Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. That's not the point. The point is that they're not giving you 1, 2, and 3 because you're entitled, or like you say, for the players. They're giving you 1, 2, and 3 as a complete cover-up because they've got nothing. And then somebody says to me on Twitter, I'll leave his name, so anyone who follows me knows who I argue back and forth with. He says to me, well, it is the 10-year anniversary of God of War. Yeah, it's the 10-year anniversary of God of War 1, not 3. So why is it you're just giving me 3? Why is 3 the one that's getting remade? You know why? Because 3 had the best sales, and they're fucked right now. They have nothing to put out there. So what are they going to do? Somebody looked at the sales sheet, said, well, we sold like 4 million God of War 3. We sold 1.7 God of War 1. Remake 3. Make it a little bit better because they don't have time to do a trilogy. They're throwing this shit together. Both of these remakes were rumored. Of course, only one is announced by Sony. The other one is still a rumor. But they were both rumored, and one came out after the Uncharted 4 delay. This is the complete and utter cob job by Sony, and the media is not one. You're telling me out of all those affiliates, all those outlets, not one media outlet is saying, hey, has anybody realized that we're getting this immediate rush in 3 months of remakes that are for the players, but it looks like it's a cover-up? Nobody's running with that angle, like you said, but Microsoft does one thing, and bang, like every media outlet's on them immediately. Like you said, for the power draw, the instant on, or this thing here where CD Projekt Red's the one that sent but gave them the computer footage, and now Microsoft has to do the apology. That's where I get upset. It's not with Sony's games or their problems or their financial structures. I'll use that as all evidence. But my point is actually the media, not one person would run with that. That's how you guys can tell. That's what I'm trying to say. When someone says to me, why is it you always say, Mooch, that the gaming media is biased? The reason I say it is because I'm not making it up, and it's not a conspiracy theory. You're telling me all these affiliates, all these liberal and right-wing guys that are out there, and even in the gaming media, not one of them is going to come up with the line that this is a complete cob job, that Sony's in trouble. This is the second Christmas with no first parties, really. I mean, but nothing.
This would be really the third, because if you look at the launch, it was just Killzone and Knack.
That was bad.
I mean, it's terrible. Those are like the two of the worst games I've ever played.
What did Showstopper call? Was it Showstopper or Tim Dog? Somebody said something about Killzone on our podcast last weekend. It was hysterical. He's like, basically, it was a really shiny shooter with no story and no competitive edge that made me want to go back and play it. I mean, whatever they said, I'm paraphrasing here, but absolutely nailed that game. It's a nothing game. It's a forgotten game.
Yeah, it's always been one of the most boring. You know what? Like, it's a perfect fit. Like, Killzone was generic, and the PlayStation 4 is generic to me. You know what I mean? Like people were like somebody tweeted to me, "Oh, here's why they get all these stability updates, right?" And so, hold on one second. Hold on one sec. But anyway, yeah, people are like, "Hey, here's what they're doing those stability updates for." And they posted a link to a video showing the UI running, right? I'm like, congratulations. You know, it took them 8 years to perfect, and a new console to perfect the PS3 UI, because that's all the PS4 UI is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It should run good. You know, it's just basically the PS3 user interface, right? You know what I'm saying? Same damn thing.
Oh, you just reminded me, crap. That's something else we don't talk about on the show nearly enough. The other, besides games, you know, because we could talk about games for hours with Microsoft's going to give you and what's coming, which you can't do on PS4. But the other thing we're all getting, and anybody who's an Xbox One owner who's listening knows this, we're getting these updates. We're getting Windows 10 in a couple of weeks, guys.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting a new UI. We're going to get all of these features that are going to be enhanced. I'm going to be able to sit right where I am right now, right where I am in front of my computer, and I'm going to be able to play a game right now with my Xbox 3 rooms away and playing this game while I'm on a podcast. I can do that anywhere I want in my house. That's one feature. There's going to be all these great features coming out with all these new apps. Everything that's on a mobile device right now, anything you see in the Windows Store on your mobile device is eventually coming to Xbox One. You'll be able to do any of these things on your Xbox. Like, that's amazing. Nobody talks about this stuff. But the PlayStation 4 gets a stability update and a button change configuration. After 3 years, you can change the triangle to an X. All right, thanks. How about if I just play the game the way the developer designed it? I'm not going to change the triangle to an X. You know, but the 3 or 4 ponies that have big YouTube channels, what do? They're like, this is great. This is great. I don't like using the actual trigger button. We all know who I'm talking about if you watch YouTube. I don't like using the trigger button. I like using what we call the RB button, whatever they call R1. I use R1 to fire my gun, not the trigger. So the thing that is actually shaped on purpose, like the handle pistol, the trigger finger of a pistol, that's not good enough for him. He's really happy that Sony gave him the button configuration movement so he can move it to the bumper. This is what I'm talking about. Like, that's what you're excited about after almost 3 years with a system. You're excited you can move the trigger to a bumper. Like, I mean, this is the insanity that's going on. And when people are like, I can't believe you like Xbox, I don't understand why you like PlayStation. A, I don't like anime. 2, I don't like not having games. 3, I hate the user interface. 4, I can't stand your online service. And 5, I can't stand how the mother company can't stand my own country. You know what I mean? Like, you put all that together, why am I buying it? Give me a reason to spend $400. Like, talk me out of those 5 reasons.
Well, they can't, you know, and yeah, they can't. It's just it's not going to happen. They're, you know, like I said, I have one. I don't even know why. You know, I played my 360.
No, I'm going to defend you there, crap. You said to me when you got it, and I got to be honest with you, I asked you. I said why, and a million people asked you, but you gave a really good answer to me. Listen, you're an entertainer, but you do this. I don't have a YouTube channel yet. I did tell you guys I am planning on starting one as soon as I get done with my move, because I just wanted to get things in line and not have to start a channel and then stop it. But you have an investment right now. You're doing very well. You've got a lot of subscribers, and it's a good move for you to be able to give your honest opinion on it. Myself personally, I try to give my honest opinion, and after I do, I tell you my opinion only comes from basically watching some of the YouTube videos that I see on Let's Play, etc. You know, so I do think you have a good reason for owning one. And I'll tell you, when I do start a channel up and when I get something going, I'll probably grab one at one point, because it's only fair to give an assessment on something if you played it. So I get why you have it. I get why Zaire has one. But I also completely understand anybody who doesn't have one, because to be honest with you, you would just have to have $400 that pissed you off in your pocket. And you just got to get rid of it. You just got to be like, you know, I have $400. I'm going to open a window and throw it out, and somebody threw a PS4 in the back of your seat. Like, there's no other reason you would go get one. And it's funny, because there's a couple of people on Twitter that I go back and forth with that are Sony guys. They literally have had their PS4 for 6 to 12 months, And now they're ranting and raving about Bloodborne. But let's be honest, they weren't really excited about Bloodborne. They're just playing the game because it's all they have. And it is what it is, right? You know?
You would see, like, say Microsoft comes out with some new game or whatever. And I won't even get into the whole angle that it was really Bloodborne was deceptive marketing by Sony and From Software. They named it that so that it wouldn't be associated with Demon Souls or Dark Souls. I mean, it was to dupe people into buying it. You know, because people, it's a very niche market. I don't care what anybody says. They're incredibly difficult games. I don't know how many tweets I saw where people gave up on that game or broke their controller or, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't realize. They're like, oh, I thought it was supposed to be easier. You know what I mean? They're like surprised by it or whatever, you know? So I think that in itself was a little bit of deceptive marketing by Sony because the Souls games carry a certain stigma about them, you know? So, hey, brilliant, but also kind of dick move. You know what I mean? It's shady. That's what Sony does.
Everything Sony's done since launch has been shady. And again, I'm only telling you this because I have to do presentations. I have to have things set up. And in my life, my career, what I do. And when I saw the Sony press conference or E3 in 2013 and they announced the price, it was just a white screen and in black lettering, you know, $399. That was literally them last minute being like, change the slides. Somebody give me a new slide now. Somebody. I don't care who it is. Make me a goddamn slide. I got to go on stage.
Well, it came out that Jack Tretton was the one that was like, hey, we got to quick and unbundle the camera because we're we're going to beat their price. They were going to go for the same exact price, $499.
Absolutely.
And, you know,
but Jack Tretton and company knew he knew everybody at Microsoft and everybody at Sony knows what's happening 3 years in advance. And Jack Tretton knew they had nothing coming down the pipeline. Nothing. Watch Jack Tretton's interview with that Jeff Keighley. Watch his interview after the 2013 E3. Jeff Keighley was wiping his ass with silk, and he was sitting there, and he was like, you know, he was being very very, very modest. He was like, listen, no, I thought we had a good E3. Take it easy. You know, he's telling them, he's like, yeah, take it easy. Because Jack Tretton was like, yeah, we ain't got shit. We really don't have shit. People are just clapping, but we don't have shit. You know, you could see this. If you're a CEO, you know when Trump builds a new building every couple of months, and like he gets on TV and he's like, yeah, if you haven't seen Trump Chicago, check it out. Go check out Trump Las Vegas. He's so cocky because he's got these amazing buildings. He's making a lot of money. Jack Tretton is also a very successful CEO, but he's not stupid. He knows that 3 years down the line, he had absolutely nothing in his pocket. So he was like, when they're like, do you believe it? You guys are amazing. He's like, yeah. I hope you like indies. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, we really killed it today. Like, he wasn't boasting because he knew what was coming, and what was coming as we're getting again the second Christmas with nothing. He had nothing in his pocket. Now, Xbox, you heard that little rumbling from Phil Spencer before he was Xbox boss when he was going off stage when he announced the $499 price. They caught him on stage coming off of his mic. He said, I thought they would have liked that. Because basically he's like, holy shit, we're giving you a lot of goddamn content, plus a lot of features, plus a lot of opportunities with this console. You know, working with your cable box, your cable provider, your dish network, your this, your that, blah, 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 for $499. And people were like booing. And he came off stage like, really? You're booing? Like, you know how hard we worked to get it to $499 to give you all this shit in a box?
Yeah,
like, that's my point. Like, you just got to look back at the subtleties that happened.
Jeff Keighley, he always lobs softballs at Jack Tretton, right? Like, and then I can still remember him interviewing Don Matrick once, and he kept on bringing up, well, aren't you guys going to do any exclusives? Because the PS3's got all these exclusives, and you guys are just having Gears 3 or this, only 3 exclusives, and they just announced 8. And Don Matrick would go, well, we've got, the biggest blockbuster exclusives with Gears and Forza, and we're also the best place to play Call of Duty. You're going to get maps early, you're going to get this. And Jeff Keighley's like, well, that's not good when you got the, just like, but you'll never see any media do that with the Xbox to say, oh, hey, Sony, Xbox has got 12 exclusives announced this year, big AAA titles, and you guys only have 2. Yeah. I mean, what are you guys going to do? He'll never do that. Just like, there's games, right? Like, what is that? Star Ocean gets announced. Where's all the media going, hey, is that coming to Xbox at some point?
Yeah.
Or them badgering Capcom about Street Fighter V. Well, maybe the Super Hyper Mega edition of that, do you think that'll ever come to Xbox? Or how about Silent Hills? Nobody ever...
Game Informer's magazine that covered Tomb Raider back in March, a full page of it was them port begging to please bring it to play. You ever come to PS4? You gonna come to PS4? What's happening with PS4?
Oh,
Who
did
gives
you
a
see the
shit?
Alan Wake thing in Polygon, right?
Absolutely.
They're basically port begging for them. They're like, oh, man, so this could go to PS4. And you could tell that Remedy is like, I forget who's the head of Remedy? I can't think of his name right now.
Sam Lake.
Yeah, Sam Lake, right? You can tell whenever he's been interviewed about that, there's a certain thing that these developers have to do. It's called not burning your bridges because you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah,
but you can go back, and I have these saved where Gears of War, the head of Epic Games, Reigns and Cliffy B and these guys were asked about putting Gears to the PS3. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to. We want to get our game out on as many platforms as possible. Microsoft's been a great partner, though. And this, it's because just same thing. Remember, what was it, 6-8 months ago, Crytek was like, yeah, we'd love to put Rise on the PS4 or whatever,
Right.
That shit's never happening. There's just these situations where they don't want to burn their bridges. They have to do this. Look, if you don't think that Microsoft invests a lot of money with Remedy, basically Remedy makes 2 games a game a generation, maybe 2, and Microsoft is fully funding that they own Quantum Break outright, thankfully. So, I'm happy about that. But if you don't think Microsoft would have first refusal at a new Alan Wake being exclusive, then you're foolish. You know what I mean? Like, people were like, oh my God, it's going to come to the PS4 and freaking out on, this has been the week of freakouts for Xbox fans, I think. The Call of Duty thing, they're like, oh my God, Alan Wake could go to PS4. I'm like, guys, Quantum Break's not even done yet. It's not out till 2016. It takes them a minimum of 3 to 4 years to do a game. So come wake me up in 2020, 2021 when that would be a fucking possibility, and then maybe I'll worry about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it's like you also get Xbox dudes that are like, oh, they should just buy Remedy, and I'm kind of on board with that if they could get them cheap enough. But at the same time, a company that they're really quality, but they're so slow and meticulous.
Well,
you know
here's
what I
the
mean?
thing. Me and you were speaking offline about that earlier today. Here's the thing, Crap. Remedy, I'm not one of those people that jumps immediately and says, Microsoft should buy this, Microsoft should buy that. I don't think Microsoft should just jump at the hat. But everything Remedy's made has been a Microsoft exclusive for the most part. So
yeah, with the exception of like Max Payne or whatever it was.
Right. So with the exception of that, which Max Payne is now Rockstar anyway. So, but look at the very short tenure that we have with Phil Spencer as Xbox boss. Okay, he's in charge of all these moves. He buys Mojang. He talks Nadal into doing Mojang. He's the one that locks down a Tomb Raider deal and locks down this not the IP, but this particular game is going to be an Xbox PC exclusive. He locks that big game down. He bought Gears 2 days after he took over. He's like, and his first order as Xbox chief, I want that in my title. That's ours. That's associated with. He said it in a couple of different interviews with like, remember when he was explaining why he did Tomb Raider? He's like, we didn't have anything in that genre. And he tipped his hat. He said, I think Uncharted is a great game. We want something like that in our filing cabinet. And Gears has always been associated with Microsoft. So what does he do? Immediately locks it down, buys the IP. Okay. This is a guy who's been in charge for a very short period of time, but you can already see the way he is. All right. He's a general manager in baseball that goes after pitching. It takes a long time to develop your 5 starters and 3 or 4 guys in your bullpen. Okay, it takes years. It doesn't happen in 24 hours. When you want to go buy big bats in baseball, you can buy that in an off season. No big deal. So what he's got to do here to get pitchers is IPs and games, and it's taking him. He just took over a little over a year ago. Give him some time. And in 1 year's time, he's bought Minecraft. Does anybody even understand that? He's bought Gears.
What's actually made them, Minecraft is already making them money. Like a lot of people are like, man, they overpaid $2.5 billion or whatever, but it's actually already, even in their latest earnings, it's making them money. So I think that can't be overstated. That thing prints money. You go to the store and you see all kinds of Minecraft stuff, and people buy it, kids buy it, casuals buy it. You know what I mean? Like everybody buys it. I personally don't understand the fascination with it, but hey, people buy it, they like it. Hey, it is what it is.
And to bring us the full circle to what you were talking about, Crap, with Remedy, is you had mentioned to me, you said the only thing with Remedy is they're slow. Now, here's my thing. You're right, they are slow. But if, okay, and I'm not even telling them to go do this, but hypothetically speaking, if they bought a Remedy, between Microsoft's money and investment, they wouldn't be a team of 25 guys anymore. They'd be a team of 120 guys, and they'd be pumping out games, accordingly every 3 years, but it would be more on target. Right now, Sam Lake, he's not just a great game designer. He's also an artist. You can see the way I follow him on Twitter. He sends out pictures of his homeland. Like, look at this amazing look, and it's a creek that's frozen with the way the icicles have come off branches.
Yeah, I saw it. People were tweeting him, about hey, that reminds me of Alan Wake or whatever. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, exactly. He goes out. Listen. I took this one class. I'm in engineering. If you do everything properly, when you get to your last semester, you have a couple extra credits you have to take. I took the structural engineering class, but the guy who's the professor was interesting. He would do things in the classroom and have you stare at them a certain way when you were designing something, and you would look at it and you'd be like, why am I staring at this? He'd just give you these objective things to look at. And Sam Lake is an amazing developer, but at the same time, he sends out these pictures with these tweets, and I try to take a second. I blow up the picture, I look at it, and he's like, this is how I started my morning. I was walking across this creaky bridge, and I just sat and I had my cup of coffee here. And you could tell it was 4 below zero when he took this picture. And he stood there and took it all in. Then he goes to work. So here's the thing with Remedy. You're going to get an A+ game. And you're getting it from such a qualified guy that he's not just a developer. Like I said, he's an artist. He's this, that, and the other thing. So we all give Remedy that kind of time. And maybe that's what they need, But if Microsoft were to acquire them, I really think it's a victory. I really do.
I agree. I would say this, right? If Quantum Break comes out really well, I would probably think that was something that they might do, because they could use another solid developer like that. And let me ask you this question. I'm going to wrap it up here soon, but it seems to me that Phil Spencer is getting some stopgaps, Rise, Dead Rising 3, Tomb Raider. He wants to build his first party, these games where there's no questioning that they're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? To me, it seems like that's what he's trying to do. He's got some stopgaps while his first party studios catch up and put out content. You know what I mean? He wants that adventure game, his own adventure game, and RPGs and things like that. You know what I mean? So I think that, don't you think that that's kind of maybe what he's doing, is Tomb Raider's a stopgap, and but he really yearns for his own first party games that he could be proud of. You know what I mean? You could see that when he talks about Uncharted or whatever, and so I think that that's a good thing. That's something to aspire to. You see that the competition, and to actually admit it's good. It's I remember. What was it? Yoshida was like, "Hey, I'll play The Escapist if it's on PS4." You know what I mean? And you got Phil Spencer. He's like, "Congratulations to Bloodborne," and this and that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, there's obviously kind of different situations, but also just real quick, I wanted to touch on the financial reports. People freak out over these things. Everybody's an expert.
Everybody's an analyst.
The real good news is Surface, man. That thing's lighting it up. You know what I mean? It's $1 billion thing almost now for Microsoft, which is really good because it's a quality product. As far as the Xbox goes, it was down 24% year over year. But the interesting thing about that is they attribute it solely to the price cut. So you could have looked at the numbers with the 30% increase in Xbox Live money. And you can kind of work it out that there was actually a 15 to 20% increase in sales of Xbox One.
Correct.
And of course, the 360 is leveling off. So Xbox One could have sold more than it did the previous year, but it's going to make less money due to a price cut. And I've been saying, man, hey, that price cut, it's good for install or whatever. But it's a situation where it's not going to make them as much money. But you make up that money in the software, and having more first-party games makes you more money. You know what I mean? So I think that that's where the thinking comes in, because there's less overhead and you're not paying another studio, and the publishing is in-house. It's much easier to do those things. So people that were like, oh, man, it's all doom and gloom, it's not. It's a situation where, and they were coming off the previous year was right after launch. Right. You know what I'm saying? So the 360 was still kind of strong. And, it's just not as strong anymore.
Anybody who looks at those numbers and freaks out, an article came out, what was it, about 3 weeks ago. I think Red Dragon reported it first. Shout out to him. But Microsoft was contemplating, it was either the OG Xbox or it was the 360.
Yeah, it was the original Xbox.
Yeah, they were going to give it away for free to everybody. Now, hear me out. If a company actually did the mathematics and figured out that they could give away this console for free and still make money at the end, you got to understand what you just said holds a lot of water crap. Even though that is down, it's because their price reduced down, so they're making less in. But showing the sales of a 30% profit increase in Xbox Live, that means there's more activations of new consoles. So with knowing that, that means Xbox sales are up. Things are going in the right direction. Microsoft's well aware of a revenue dip that's going to happen when you lower the price. That's just what it is. If you're selling a bottle of Grey Goose for $60, okay, and you're selling 40 bottles of it, you're making X amount of dollars. You reduce it to 50, they're making less money on it as far as profit. Profitability has gone down, but they're selling more of them. And the whole point is you want to get people addicted to Grey Goose because they keep coming back. And the same concept is here with the consoles. With the consoles, you want them to put them in their house. Once they're in their house, they're buying the games off of your marketplace because digital is just increasing like crazy. Software is where their money is. You're buying their apps. You're buying other people's apps that pay to be on their system. They just want to get the box in your damn house. Yeah. They don't care if it's $50 less in their pocket on the hardware. Now, Sony doesn't have any apps coming. Not that I'm aware of.
The funny thing is that's how it's always been. Is the software makes money, the hardware doesn't. Which is why if you go back to the Dreamcast days, they were actually giving that away for a while. If you signed a 2-year contract for SegaNet at the time or whatever, it was like they would give you a free Dreamcast as long as you signed up for that or whatever. So, here's the this guy just tweeted out there was 22 million Xbox consoles sold for the 2014 to current, and that includes 360 and Xbox One. You would assume that most of those are Xbox Ones. I think the 360 was something like 4 million or something last year. So you're looking at probably 16 million Xbox One, 17 million, something like that. So it's not as bad as what people are trying to make it out to be. Now, here's the interesting thing. Like people that are like, oh, well, they don't give you the straight up numbers. What they do is they didn't even do that for Surface, which was up and made a ton of money. You know what I mean? They aren't giving you concrete numbers on it. It's business. That's what they do. Sony does that. They hide shit. They move shit around, make it look, you know what I'm saying? Right. That's business, right? But anybody that's like, oh my gosh, it's all doom and gloom. No. It's not. It's not bad. Microsoft and the Xbox One is still up over what the 360 was doing in the same place and time. So.
Right. So if they ended their, let's forget what they're at now. Let's just go back to the figures we knew before they actually had the new launches. So if you're at 80 to 86 million back then, if they're at 60% increase, I mean, they're gonna crush 100 million in the same time frame, and they're gonna do very well with it. And there's still a lot of people playing 360. And I think between
I just got another one.
Yeah, I did too. I bought a 360 at Christmas as well. 500 gig. I just wanted to have one between what I have with the 200 plus here, and then I got the 500. That's enough to grab a bunch of the games they're handing out to us, plus other stuff.
Yeah, they actually have a preview program on that as well, where you can do like a 2 terabyte external now. Man, I wish where was that during the life cycle of that? Gee,
I know. I would have liked it on that.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
I would have bought that new console, but hence that's why they did it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it makes money, and it was all about making money. You know what I mean?
That's what they're here to do, right? I mean, that's why I say we've drawn a line in the sand. Everybody's taken their side. My only reason that they say, well, why are you such a corporate this and that? It's not that I'm a corporate this or that. I don't make any money off of anybody that listens to this and goes and buys it. My question to the people listening or the people that follow me on Twitter is just, why are you following a company that's giving you less for your money? That's what I don't understand. Microsoft's bending over backwards to give you product. They're giving you new features every month. They're giving you that response that they have with their in-depth, like what is their Xbox support and online requests. They follow that thing to a T. Whatever's the top 3 or 4 things voted on, you get them. Like, it's amazing how they're listening to the people. You're getting the games. You've got the better controller, the better online, the better features. I don't, and anybody who doesn't have a Kinect, go buy one. In all honesty, I don't care. No, I'm not jumping around playing games with my hands and my feet. I understand that, but I'm using it for voice activation. Great for facial recognition. Amazing for getting through on TV and media. It's just nice to get up. You're with your better half, and you're sitting there. Your wife says, "Oh my God, I want to go get another." You get another drink. You're gonna open another bottle of wine. Say Xbox pause. I mean, just the novelty that we're moving into the future. We see all these commercials with everything moving into the future, and everyone's like, "No, I just want a gaming machine." Why? Why do you want something that's just a gaming machine that you like? If you're a PS4 owner, most of the time your machine is off.
Yeah.
Even the Sony fanboys that work at IGN and all them, they'll say, "I play my Sony all the time," which they're lying. They're like, "But my Sony's off at night. I usually have my Xbox One on for media." So my point is if you have the media, you have the games, and you have this cool technology, and you're getting all that for $50 cheaper, like I don't understand why you don't have an Xbox One. That's what that's where I draw the line and I stand on the Microsoft side is I'm getting more for my dollar. I'm getting more, whether it's service, games, or just hardware. I'm getting more. So that's my beef. That's why I do these things. I try to get the word out so people will listen, make some sense of it, and say, you know what, you can own both. I'm not saying don't own both, but I'm saying don't just own a PS4. I'm eventually going to own a PS4. If it's not the upcoming Christmas, it'll be right when Uncharted comes out. But I'm going to get one.
This is the thing, and I made this comment because somebody was like mentioned something in the comment section of a video I did once about being upset about sales or whatever. I was like, listen, here's the thing, Xbox One owners and fans have no problem buying a Wii U or a PS4 if there's something they want to play. Yeah, if there's something they want to play. PS4 owners act like it's the worst thing in the world to play anything that's not a PlayStation. They won't get a Wii U. They won't get a Xbox One. Oh, they'll talk about they have a PC if there's a game that's on Xbox and PC. That way they, quote unquote, they'll just play it on PC. But we saw how that worked out with Titanfall. You know what I mean? It's like, talk is cheap. In my opinion, you know what I mean? It was like just like last gen when people were like, first day buy, PlayStation Battle Royale is going to be better than Smash Brothers. First day one buy, and that game sold nothing. You know what I mean? So it's like you can't always take with these. Same thing with the Vita. Oh, that thing's going to kill the 3DS. Look how much more powerful it is. So much power. Dude, it's going to kill the 3DS. Goodbye 3DS. Goodbye Nintendo. Then how'd that work out for you? There's not even the Vita. Are they even making that thing? You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing on it. It's like an indie machine.
The rumor to be making a new one again, another redesign.
Yeah, because they're trying to get cheaper and cheaper with it because they're not selling. So that's what they're trying to do. But if you look at it, they are like that's the biggest screw you in gaming right now is the PlayStation Vita, right? They sell people this $300 thing, and they aren't even making games for it anymore. When was the last new exclusive for this game, like big game? You know what I mean? I can't even think of it, and they're not making them anymore. They came out and said that model doesn't work on there. We're not making them. It's basically indie games and things like that. Like that is a big fuck you to consumers, and people aren't even talking about it. They just roll that under the rug. Doesn't matter. Hey, Sony's God. You know what I mean? So I think that until people start calling Sony out for their bullshit, they're going to keep getting away with it. Lie about resolution on this, start fanboy wars based off lies on resolution. It's like, it's all one big bullshit thing after another. But I think that a third year in a row of no exclusives for holiday, people are going to start to take notice. You look at what Microsoft has, and then I think begrudgingly the PlayStation fans will buy an Xbox One. You know what I mean? Because how can you not? If you're a real gamer, how the hell are you going to not get one when you can get an Xbox One? You trade in just like that deal with the PlayStation 4. If you have an old 360 or PS3, trade it in and get $125 off the already $350 console that has the Halo Master Chief Collection. That's 4 games right there, It's
a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you? There's going to be games on there that you're going to want to play. I don't care how big a fanboy you are for Sony. There's going to be something on there. I always see Sony fanboys go, oh, well, I like this game, but, I'm not going to do it. Or I like this game, but I'm not going to do it. Yeah, man, if you're a gamer, step up. Buy the damn console. Buy the games. Quit being a little bitch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Quit complaining. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? It's like, Jesus, wow, you can buy other stuff that's not called PlayStation, and you're going to be okay. You're not going to die. You're not going to burst into flames. You know what I mean? It's like, it's ridiculous. I bought a PS4. It's like, okay, I can play it. If there's something on there to play, I have no problems playing it. You know what I mean? If there's something to play. I was looking forward to Uncharted. That didn't work out for this year. I kind of figured it wouldn't. So whatever, it's probably not going to be played that much. I'm not really interested in like Trop Pico or anything like that.
It's funny too. The 3 or 4 ponies that I always talk to the Sony guys that are big fans on Twitter. It's funny. All 3 of them don't have PS Plus. They refuse to pay. So they're like, not only are they they bashed Microsoft. They don't like Microsoft. They went and bought a PS4, and I'm like, hey, did you guys get PS Plus yet? They're like, no, I told you we're not doing that. Like,
Yeah.
they refused to pay for it because they're like, no, it was free on 3, so I'm not going to pay for it on 4. So like, I'm like, so you're limiting yourself even more than you are by just owning just the PS4, because the PS4 has nothing except for Resogun and whatever we just talked about in Tropico 5 coming. Like, there's nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like,
Resogun is you know what? I was so surprised when I played that game that people hyped that up so much. It was like the boring shooter. It's like a space shooter. It is.
Super R-Type.
It's like it was so boring. It's boring on PS3. It's boring on PS4. There's very little depth to it, and people were talking that shit up big time on the launch of the PS4. I remember Colin Moriarty talking about that game months later. Well, yeah, I know they were.
Great.
No, is he really?
Oh yeah, it's his favorite game on PlayStation.
Oh my gosh, dude! Well, your console is bad when, right? I mean, come on. Because I remember I saw you talking about them today. You were like, "Oh my god, they're playing State of Decay or something." Or
oh my god, that was
like that.
They did a Let's Play, and I'll be honest with you. What was the analogy I used? Do you remember?
I forget what it was, man. But it was kind of
watching those two play that game was absolute misery. It was absolute misery. They're sitting there, they're making fun of it. And it's funny because they started off by going, thanks to Undead Labs and thanks to Microsoft for giving it to us. If I was Undead Labs and I was watching that, I would have had this game will self-destruct code, and I would have just typed it right in and hit enter right while they were playing it and just shut it off and been like, go fuck yourself. Like, all they did was mimic the goddamn thing. He's like, there's too much. It's too confusing. There's too much stuff going on. Oh, I know. You need Resogun where you just go in a circle and shoot the shiny thing. You know what I mean?
Well, PlayStation gamers, they're attracted to shiny things. You know what I
mean?
They
like shiny,
hey,
infamy.
There's the shiny. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Puddles that splash, but there's no bad guys. There's just puddles and shiny rainbows. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean it's a bad state, and then the fact that anybody would think that the Xbox is on life support, or that a Call of Duty marketing thing means the death of the Xbox. That that's crazy as well. I mean, that's completely asinine to think that, because was that PlayStation done when Xbox had Call of Duty? Of course not. You know what I'm saying? That's what you got to ask yourself. The people that are like, oh my god, it's really over if Sony gets the marketing deal. I'm like, what are you talking about? Was it over when Microsoft got that marketing deal with the 360, even though the 360 was kicking the PlayStation's ass and ended up, I mean, right. people that look at the PlayStation 3 and they're like, well, it really caught up. It really caught up. Well, it caught up, yeah, after all the price cuts, and they lost $8 billion on it, and it never caught up in the U.S. It ended up being 40 million behind.
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? And not only that, but if you look at the grand scheme of things, where they had 90% of the market share the previous generation, the fact that they lost so much market share really ended up meaning that the PS3 cost them more than anything. Sure, they ended up with 80 million consoles sold, but at what cost?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that it's like, out of all the consoles, they came in last. I don't care. They could have ended up selling more than the Xbox 360 and Wii, and I would have still considered them last, because the Wii had 100 million and Xbox 360 and 90. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, they cut into Sony's margin and profits and market share and mind share like big time, and that was a big slap in the face as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? They came out with this shitty console that was hard to work on and had frame rate issues, but nobody even brought that shit up hardly. That it was like there was no resolution to. I don't know. The whole thing's kind of bullshit, but
it is. I can't wait. Hopefully, when are we gonna? Now, what time's the reveal on Sunday?
I'm not sure exactly what time it is, but it should be interesting to see, because the fanboys are gonna go off like big time. We'll know what's going on. Like,
I'll be going.
I'm interested. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what's going on with it. I'm going to just say this. Call of Duty's too big a game not to be on somebody's stage at E3. It's going to be on somebody's stage, and I think that, I would think that it would be Microsoft's. To me, that's not the way you close the show anymore, but you certainly maybe open it with that.
I think a few people were saying this to me on Twitter. I don't think Call of Duty, Microsoft does their Call of Duty like they're doing now. This is the same, by the way, nothing's changed. This is the same thing they did last year. They have a reveal around the end of April, early May. I don't think they do an E3 showing, if I remember right. Correct? They don't, because remember, they don't have, Microsoft didn't have Call of Duty come out on stage at E3 last year. I don't think they do that. So I think
wait, Microsoft they had Advanced Warfare played at their E3 last year.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
it was the day before, wasn't it? It's a separate.
No, they did a reveal event where they showed that, but they actually did a playthrough at the Microsoft conference as well.
Did they really? When Phil Spencer was up there, like on the stage, and they did it then?
I could almost swear they did. Like they showed the part where the guy was like.
Because here's the reason I don't. The reason you didn't do. Is because they did Sunset Overdrive had that like little spoof where we're like, hey, look, we're not Call of Duty.
Yeah, well, they did have that spoof, but I distinctly remember watching it because me and Next Gen and we did a live podcast during it, and Next Gen was like, "Yo, dog, I'm not a Call of Duty dude, but those graphics are sick." I'm like, "Get that game," you know what I mean? So
Jamie Moran just wrote. He said Call of Duty was not at Xbox E3 2013. Because there was a COD show before. Yeah, I remember there being a show before.
Yeah, Larry Herb was at the show. They broadcast it live on Xbox Live, remember?
Okay.
Yeah, because they had that dog and everything. Remember that?
Okay. Yes.
That was Ghost, which was probably one of the worst Call of Duty I've ever played. Yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible.
To me personally, if it happens to go to Sony, which it's not, but if it does, they may pull them out there because they don't have anything else to show on stage. I think if Call of Duty ends up with Microsoft again like it is, I don't think Microsoft this year. I don't think Microsoft's going to have them at E3. They don't need to bring them out there at E3. They may mention it, but they're not gonna bring them out there again this year because Phil's got plenty of first party games. He's got the rare stuff to show. He's got to show new stuff that's coming out, stuff that we do know about. He says he wants game demos. That's what he's doing different. Everyone took his words the wrong way. When he said he was going to do E3 differently, he doesn't want to just have people up there and playing a quick segment. He wants people to see the game played. He doesn't want 20 seconds of advertising and then a developer up there in a suit, or now the new suit is a T-shirt and a sports jacket.
Yeah, which now you notice that's the trend, right? Like, remember when Sony tried to like copy that, even though that they suck at it because they got the personalities.
What was that Sony? The new Sony CEO, Sean
Lydon or something like that. Yeah,
he came out in it looked like a Christmas sweater for PSX. He looked like one of those ugly Christmas sweaters we all make fun of.
Yeah,
guy is an absolute tool, and
he looks like a damn douchebag. You know what I mean?
He's a clown. He fits in with House and Yoshida and that bastard boys.
I can't stand Yoshida, man. That guy's like the fucking leader of the human centipede that is known as the PlayStation fan base.
Yeah, he definitely is the leader of the centipede.
He is. He's the human centipede, dude. He's like at the front, and then you have each of them with their lips stapled to each other's ass.
Showstopper said he smiled once, stuck his face in pizza dough or something, and it got stuck like that. When Showstopper said that, man, I lost it. The guy's on target with that.
It's funny, but man, I want to thank, man. We had like 125, 30 people watching. It's like
impromptu.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, it's important to let you guys know that, no marketing for Call of Duty doesn't change anything. It might be a little bit of a mistake, in my opinion, if Microsoft did let it go. But hey, it's still going to be on the platform. If they do that, it's because they want to promote their first party stuff a little bit more. I could see why they'd want to do that. It's important to differentiate your console to the competition. So you got to show those games that aren't available on the other console. And I think that would be a huge win for Microsoft to do that and keep some key partnerships as well. No doom and gloom here. Xbox One is going to be fine. It's ahead of the 360 at the same point in time. You don't have to sell exactly what the PS4 is doing. You could be successful. You can like things that aren't selling the best. You know what I mean? You don't have to base your life or your decisions on what sells best or what's the most popular. In fact, that's a good rule of thumb in life, because otherwise you're just going to be a sheep your whole life, and
exactly
you're not going to be a leader. You're going to be a follower, and those followers suck. We got a lot of those in the world. We need leaders that go out and do their own thing and can have their own opinions.
Exactly,
and that's important. When it comes to consoles or music or movies, you like what you want to like. You know what I mean? Don't let somebody else's thinking impact that. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Exactly.
Anyway, hey Mooch, man, good luck with your move. Thanks for coming on and
Thanks,
talking
guys.
games and stuff with me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, Crap. Anytime.
And we'll catch you guys, I think, Sunday on Big Gamer Small Talk, and hopefully Mooch is all moved in by then.
Yeah,
and,
I should be up and running again, so I'll be ready for Sunday.
Till then, we'll catch you guys later, man. Peace out.
Peace.